let's talk about timelines. Timelines put your ancestors in context. And what I mean by that is it lets you see what else was historically going on around them as they grew up, as they interacted, as they became part of a community. And that's the basis for story. And story is really what genealogy is all about. The program that we're going to look at today, excuse me, the program we're going to look at today is called Genelines, and you'll see how it provides context for your ancestors. It is only a PC program, although if you're a Mac user, you can run it on whatever your Windows emulator is on a Mac. But let's jump in and take a look at the program and see what it has to offer. So here I have, and let me enlarge up for myself. Here I have Genelines up on the screen. And the first thing you'll notice is that the interface is quite dated. In fact, if I look at the About menu, you see that the program first came out in 1998, although it is current in the fact that the last update was in 2015. So the program hasn't been touched for 5 years, although it's still being sold. It's still a viable product. As you can see here, it still runs. But you'll notice that it has a 1990s Windows 3.1 or Windows 98 feel to it. And I don't think the program really, it's been updated in terms of functionality, has been added to it, but not in terms of the look and the feel and the user experience. So that's the first thing that I noted when I started looking at the program. At the same time, you notice that all of the interaction is up in the upper left-hand corner. Is that your left? It's that way. No, that. It's near the menus, and it doesn't expand as the program itself gets expanded. So that was also an issue that I found with the program, that really it's a usability issue is what it comes down to. However, let me close that button. Now the first thing you want to do is import data into Genelines. And to do that, typically you would go to File, and I would go to, now I went to Import History. No, that's importing history. Let me File Open. Okay. And when I did File Open, it was looking for some sort of database file. And if we look at the selections, it can look for a GEDCOM file. Down here in the bottom, you'll see here a GED extension, an AQ extension, so it can pull in data from Ancestral Quest. FDB, I think, is the Family Tree Maker prefix, or the old one. No, FTW is the Family Tree Maker. I'm not sure what FTW is, and PATH is the old Personal Ancestral File database program. So it can support these formats. I, of course, chose a GEDCOM file, the same GEDCOM file that I've been using on other episodes of the Genealogy Software Showcase. So let's jump to, what I'm going to do here is cancel that since I've already done it. And I'm going to jump to one of my ancestors that you've seen me use before, mostly because he's got some decent things that happened during his life. And he is my second great-grandfather, Charles Thompson. And I'm going to select Charles. And it took me to an individual screen, popping up the data that I have on Charles. And you see here in this scrollable menu that, let's see, are these? Nope, those are notes. Is it scrollable? Or is that all I have? Oh, that may be all I have on them. It basically gives the facts that were in the GEDCOM file about Charles. Now, what I want to do is display a chart. And let me return there. I have the choice. I can display an individual chart, or I can display a family chart. And actually, there are more charts than that. But these are the two that I'm interested in right now because we want to look at a timeline chart. So I'm going to choose individual. Oh, no. There we go. Okay, there's family. So this is like a family group sheet. So if I want to look at a chart, I go up here and I choose, where was it yesterday? It wasn't individual. So I choose the individual chart because I just want to see Charles. I can choose what events I want to track in Charles' life. So if there are other facts that I want included in the timeline, I can choose those. But right now, I really just want to see history because that's really where the added benefit of the program is. Show dates, absolutely. And events. These event categories are the ones that it supports, but you can add additional ones yourself. So I'm going to click OK. And it will take just a moment to generate this chart. And there we have a timeline chart for the lifespan of Charles Henry Thompson. Here you'll see where, when he was born, and then information about where he died and was buried. And then in that context, things that happened historically during Charles' life. So for instance, Crimean War. Well, I don't think that would have had much impact on Charles. Italian Independence War. Again, not much impact. Franco-Prussian War, not much impact. U.S. Civil War, okay. So we see here that the U.S. Civil War took place between 1861 and 1865, which most Americans know. So Charles would have been, if he was born in 1852, then he would have been 8 years old, 9 years old during the Civil War. And that was actually very helpful for me to know that because Charles was born and lived most of his life in Massachusetts. But during this period of 1861 to 1865, he didn't show up anywhere. And once I expanded my search, it turns out that after the death of his mother, Charles was sent to live with his grandmother and aunt, and they moved from Vermont to Chicago. And I was able to find a listing for Charles in Chicago because I discovered that that was an area that a lot of people trying to get away from the war went. Now, how much away from the war do you need to get if you're living in Massachusetts? I don't know. I haven't studied where the fear level was from Virginia to New England, but it led me to something. And as a 9-year-old, as a 14-year-old, you wonder what effect that had on a growing boy. And at that point, Charles had lost his mother, and he was no longer living with his father. So some interesting thing there. 1874 to 1875, there were some Indian campaigns post-Civil War. That could have had some impact on Charles, at least on some of his reading. The light bulb was invented in 1879. Let's see, how old was Charles in 1879? He would have been, 29 minus 2. He would have been about 27 when the light bulb was invented. He would have been in his mid-20s when the telephone was invented. So if I want to move beyond this into storytelling, putting together a story about Charles, this is going to help me do that. Now, again, it's including a lot more information than I need. One of the things that you can do in Genelines is you can import separate history files. And before I do that, let me show you If you go to Edit and select all historical events, I need to close. Let me close this chart. Yeah, oh, let me close the whole program. So I can go down to historical events here on the home screen. And you see the ones that the program had previously loaded up. And I have the option here of putting in historical events that might be missing, or I can create a file, or I can import from a file. Now I'm going to click import, and you'll see that Genelines came with 3 files: a general history file, a music file about things that were happening in music, and a technology plus file, which is probably where the invention of the telephone and the light bulb came in. So you can load various history themes. But the other thing that you can do that I liked is this is the Progeny Genealogy website. And Progeny Genealogy is the main distributor for Genelines. I don't know whether they bought it at some point in time or they're just distributing it. But when I tried to get my old license and such, this is where I went. But you'll see here, so it shows you samples of various charts. So this is a pedigree chart where I can see each of my ancestors in context of other ancestors. And that is one of the charts that's available. And this is actually displaying a little bit better than popping it up in the program. Here is the same thing, a direct line chart for, you pick 2 relatives and get the direct line between them. And this one does put the historical context within it. And we'll try that one in just a moment. And then there are other charts here. But what I want to draw your attention to is, where was it? Free timeline files. And if I select that, you'll see here that it lets you create and customize these timeline files for the charts. And it has files for world disasters, world history, world news, general world events, which I think we already have. Different things, Cajun history, Jewish history, Akkadian history. I'm not sure what that is. Mexico and United States, religious history, English royalty, monarchs of England, 20th century technology, and music plus history, which we know we already have access to. I'm going to choose the one for United States. And you see here, there are multiple files even in this, and you can get state specific here if you want to. So I'm going to load up the one for Massachusetts, and it's going to download that file. I'm just going to download it into my downloads folder. And let me close that and hit import. No, I didn't want to create a folder. I wanted to look in my downloads folder. Please bear with me. There we go, Massachusetts history. And these are the events from Massachusetts history that I can go through them individually, or I can just select them all. I'm just going to select them all. They make things a little messy, but replace or merge with the current historical events. So if I just want to see Massachusetts and don't want to see all that other stuff, let's do a replace. So that I've shrunk down the context a little bit. And now when I go, let me go home. And now I'm going to select Charles again. Keep double clicking when all I really want to do. Let's do family this time. And return, I want to go chart family group. There we go. And I'm just going to show historical events. I'm not going to show spouses of children, nor do I want to see children in reverse order. All right. So this is a family chart, and we have the birth here of Daniel Hart, or the lifespan of Daniel Hart Thompson, who was Charles' father, and his mother, who died when Charles was, I believe, 4 years old. But then you also see it in the context of other historical events, in this case, historical events that happened in Massachusetts. So I look at Charles Henry's lifespan, and we still have the Civil War. The 54th Massachusetts, I'm sure that was a specific regiment that must have been well known. Here's an interesting one, the Great Boston Molasses Flood. I just saw that on the History Channel the other day. The first U.S. subway opening happened later in his life. And of course, the Great Boston Fire in 1872. Now, one of the things that I might want to add here is there was a big Boston fire in the 1890s that impacted Charles directly. Charles was an entrepreneur and had a farm implements business and a farm seeds business that was mail order. And his warehouse burnt down, and I have some interesting newspaper articles about that. So I could add that to this timeline to help me put together a story. The first computer, well, now we're past Charles' life. So John F. Kennedy being elected president, the first computer, we're getting into Charles, his children's life. And this last one, Frank Verling and Thompson, being my great-grandfather. So there's historical events that, in the context of the family group. Let's go up to another chart. Let's find out the right way to close this one. Let me just go home. I don't want to keep the changes. And I'm going to go up to charts. I'm not going to choose, well, I can choose comparative. Let's do a fan chart. I think once we get into the area of fan charts, now we're starting to get into the area of generic charts, and we're getting past the historical value, the historical context. That, yeah, this is just a regular. This is just a regular fan chart without historical events being associated with it. So I like this chart, but it's almost every genealogy program can do a fan chart. So I know I can already get this from Family Tree Maker. I can get it from Roots Magic. I can get it from Legacy. Any of the big programs will provide me with a fan chart. There are things that I can do to format these charts before I print them out. Probably not going to add. No, let me get off the fan chart because that's not the best place. I don't want to save it. Let's go to pedigree. Let's do a comparative. And I want to compare the history. I want to compare Charles Henry Thompson. And let's do, let's see, Charles Henry, 1800s. That would have been my other great-grandfather, Charles. No relation. Charles, Edward Charles. Come on. There we go. And did I lose Charles Henry when I did that? We're going to hit OK. Okay. And so here's a comparative chart between Edward Smith Charles, my great-grandfather on my grandmother's side, and Charles Henry Thompson, my great-great-grandfather on my father's side. On my grandfather's side. Both of these are on my father's side. And does it line it up? 1852, 1888? Not exactly. So I can see where there might be overlap, but not. They're not. The two charts are not aligned. He was between 1888 and 1924 and 1852 and 1898. Would have been nice if they had been aligned, but at the very least they do have the historical events associated with them. There are some zoom features. I can fit the chart to the screen. I can go 200%, 150, 100, down to 50%, which is helpful for some of the larger charts. So there is some flexibility in the program. Let me stop for a minute. I don't have comments on the screen. Let me go. So far, okay. Family tree is the old family tree maker format. Okay, thank you, Lewis. Looks like typical databases I've used in the finance world. Okay, Robin, if the software does what you need, then why does it matter how it looks? I totally agree with you, but if it's not friendly to use, people aren't going to use it. So the question is, can I get this same functionality in a program that is more up-to-date and more modern? And I'm going to answer that question in a bit. David, took a minute to find you again after the reset. I am so sorry to have to do that. And Robin, could I please maximize? Yeah, I'm sorry. The program itself, it's almost maximized, but it won't increase the size of the menus and the label boxes. Another feature of an older program. Yeah, so users with low vision may have difficulties with some of the programs that were made in the Windows 98 era. Absolutely, Jan. Yeah, that's one of them. My own program suffers a little bit from the if I increase the size, it will increase the spacing, but not necessarily the size of the font. That's something I'm going to address in a future version. But yeah, so that's one of the answers to your questions, Robin. But I think if the program is not friendly, then it's not going to be one, for me, it's not going to be one I'm going to be, there's always going to be I can do that in Genelines. Is it worth it? And that's a decision each of us has to make for themselves. When I started Genealogy Software Showcase, remember, I didn't want to be judgmental. The idea of showcasing the software instead of reviewing it was so that you could see the software and you could make the decision about whether this software would work for you and would give you information that you needed. So Robin, you raised a good point. But my counter to that point, I went into the other genealogy programs and played around with some of their charts, because some of those programs also said that they had timeline charts. Now, when I went into, let's pull up Roots Magic, the one that I use, and I had such high expectations for Roots Magic when I pulled it up. But if I go to chart or reports, charts, and go to timeline chart, here I can choose everyone in my tree. I can choose just an individual person. I'm going to choose an individual person. I'm going to choose Charles again. And this is a mistake I made. I kept getting a totally empty report. You have to click this checkbox if you want Charles. And then I'm also going to throw, let me throw Edward into the mix as well. I think that'll give you a fair evaluation. Yeah, I search so well, don't I? All right. So let's okay that. There are other things you can choose, including how many years per inch and the tick marks. Do I want to print the color coding? How do I want names to appear? Do I want to color code genders? Again, I'm not going to play with any of those right now. and it went to the other screen. Give me a second. Okay, and what you see here is just a very basic family timeline chart. So I can see that now this one did synchronize the dates between Edward and Charles and shows me where they overlapped, but there's no historical context in this particular program. So that was a little bit disappointing because it was a little bit disappointing to me. I had it in my head that it did it more, and so it's unfair expectation. I was just remembering wrong. But there was another program I wanted to point out, and coincidentally, this was also a program from Roots Magic, the company, and it's personal historian. And personal historian went right to the last point I had when I was pulling it up. Can I zoom this? I don't know that I can. And you'll see here that what they're providing is a table of events, but it is within a historical context. And over here on this side, I can check which ones I want to include. But you see here, his ancestor or the people that he interacted with are included, and there's just a lot more information. Now, in Personal Historian, they're providing this information because they're inviting you to write a story. They're inviting you to create a narrative about your ancestor's life. And just like I mentioned before, the value of Genelines is in providing a historical context. Family Historian will also do that. Now, this isn't a Family Historian review, and I'm not trying to compare the two. I was just showing some of the functionality that other programs do provide in timeline charts. I don't care to back it up. Now, let me switch to the main camera. So, I looked at other genealogy programs, and Ancestral Quest, which is one of the ones we showcased last week, version 16, does have a timeline chart. However, you have to have a registered copy of Ancestral Quest, and I wasn't ready to sink that money into Ancestral Quest. I looked at Family Tree Maker and did not find any kind of timeline chart. And Jan, yes, I looked at Family Historian and did not find a timeline chart. So, other than Family Historian, which provides me a timeline table, I did not find any other program that did that kind of historical timeline context. And with the ability to add your own history files. And one of the things I wanted to do in this program real quickly is I actually wanted to see what a history file looks like. And yes, I should have done that ahead of time and had it ready, but this has been a hectic week. So I'm just going to open this in Notepad. I'm going to open this in Notepad. Open with Notepad. And it is it looks like it's a rich text file. So you don't want to edit it in a program like Notepad. So the way that you would add, let's go back into the program. The way that you would create your own file. Go back to home. Don't want to change it. I would go into historical events, and I would, let's see, can I clear these out? Yeah, I can, oh no, I'm just clearing out individual fields. So I would probably want to create an empty file, an import an empty file to start clean. Then I would use this file to add data. Yeah, it doesn't like the fact that I deleted that. No, not going to let me return. I don't care what it was because I'm going to delete it afterwards. So it will let me add my own, and then you can export your history files. So in this screen, I can go to import history, and then I can also do an export of the history file and provide its own file. So that, even though the last update to the program was in 2015, it looks like there have been new history files updated on the website that you can download for free, and it also looks like I can customize it to my heart's content. So, Robin, it's not as obsolete as I may have first implied. There was one other thing I wanted to do. Oh, someone asked, does this program cost? And the answer is yes. So that's also something to consider. Where to find that? There's downloads. I want to look at products and timeline charts. And if I go to buy now, the program will cost me $29.95 if I want to download it, which is what I did, or $34.95 if I want to order a CD plus shipping and handling. Let me go back into chat. Jan, I would rather have an ugly program that works than a pretty program that doesn't work. I do not disagree. Miss Chica, is there a cost for this? Yes, there is, $29.95. Robin, the visibility issue for me is during broadcast. Even Roots Magic with a new interface is small to see in the broadcast. Robin, what I'm going to try and do next week, or the next time I've got a program that does this, what I'm going to try to do is reduce the resolution of that screen. And things are going to look less pretty. But that may address our visibility issue. Now I won't let me go, but there we go. If I shrink that down, I should have done that this week, and I just didn't think of it. But I think now if I was to open a program, 1 second here, and I'll let you guys decide, the community. So why won't it let me go over there? There we go. There we go. Okay, close. And let me maximize it. Okay, so is the loss in quality and sharpness here worth the increase in size? So I decreased the resolution of the monitor, and that scales the size. And just just put in the chat whether you find this more or less preferable, and I will take that in consideration in future showcases. Miss Chica, I've been looking for a timeline program with history, but which allows me to put where the people lived in that time frame. Did Genelines have residents as a choice? Yes, it did. When you look at, if you have residence events in your GEDCOM file, then you can include those in, and actually you can add, see, it's residential events for Abigail. So I can add them on the fly, or if I have resident events in the GEDCOM file, I believe it will import those. Lewis, they have a blog on the Genelines site that has 9 entries in 2020, so the author is still active. That is correct. Jan, I was so excited when Ancestry announced you could add historical insights, but then you hated the way it works. Isn't that always the way? One of the other timeline programs I haven't used yet is Twile. Now, if I remember correctly, when we're looking at Twile, what we're looking at is a website program. Let me confirm if that's true. Yeah, got a couple minutes. Is it Twile or Twilio? Yeah, there we go. So Twile is another option, and it's an online program for building out timelines. I did not play with this enough to feature it in this particular episode because, again, this wasn't supposed to be a roundup of timeline programs. It was supposed to be a showcase of Genelines. but I had a little extra time, so that's why I've kind of showed you some of the alternatives. And you can decide for yourself if Genelines is worth it. Let's see. Yeah, it's cloud-based, Jen. All right, so any other questions if we go back to Genelines? And Jan, again, not Jan, Robin, I'm looking to you. Is this view better than what I had? Oh, you know what? I never showed you the view. Shoot, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong screen. Okay. So, as you can see, I've got to enlarge this, and I don't think I can do that as I am doing this on the fly. Let me see here real quick if I can edit that. Give me 1 second here. Oh, I just want to see that. And can I edit it? And the answer is yes, I can. All right. So, Robin, you have an opportunity to single-handedly influence the future of Software Showcase. So, if this is preferable to what I had, it's not as sharp, and may not be displaying the program at its best. Well, in this case it is, but it is larger. Then I will update things in the future to go to this line, and we'll go from there. Did we lose Robin? Altogether, not seeing anything in chat. All right, we have a few more minutes. And if there are no more questions, then I have something special planned for next week. In the Genealogy Software Showcase Facebook page, someone asked about if I could recommend iPad programs. And I have not played a lot with iPad programs, but I found a program that would allow me to stream to you, to my desktop, so that you could see my iPad. So next week, what we are going to do is we're going to have an iPad feature where we are going to look at as many of the genealogy programs that run on the iPad as we can. Now, we're not going to focus on, there are programs out there that will let you read magazine articles, and I'm not going to include DNA programs because that's a totally separate thing that I need to do a lot more research on. But next week, we are going to do an iPad special. So for those of you who felt disappointed that we were doing a PC-only program this week, next week we're going to do iPad. And hopefully that'll provide a little excitement to see what's out there. It'll be fresh. And we will be able to answer some questions about what you can and cannot do on a tablet. So if you have a favorite genealogy program on the iPad, then please mention it in the Genealogy Software Showcase Facebook page, or email me. You can get to the contact form on the Genealogy Software Showcase website at genealogyshowcase.tech. It was Rebecca, not Robin. I'm sorry. Rebecca, you see it much better. I can see it better. Okay. This is going to be the future of Software Showcase for showing you doing screen shares, and unless the program itself will expand the text. Ms. Chica, when I used these databases at work, I had my resolution low on my computer so I could actually see the menu bars. It worked, but I had it on a separate monitor, yes. And I have it on a separate monitor, too, that I'm sharing with you. So I will try and be more cognizant of... I should have learned from last week, and my apologies for that. So next week we have the iPad special. So if you have friends who are looking for genealogy programs that run on the iPad, please share the link. I'll be putting the link to next week's show out there by tomorrow morning. Please share that link with them and invite them to our iPad special. And that's all from now from the Genealogy Software Showcase. Remember, you can find us at genealogyshowcase.tech.